Hey everyone, welcome back to another Godzilla Battleline video, and today we are taking a look at this Zetton deck that is not a creation of my own. This deck comes from the top players of the game. There's a group of the top players, right? Brainstormed this deck. I don't know off the top of my head who made it. I believe King Ghidorah is the mastermind of the deck, so credit to him for this. I haven't been using it until maybe yesterday and then into today. I think it's a ton of fun. I don't think it's meta, but I think if you're looking for a fun alternative way to use Zetton, this is going to be a pretty fun time. And if you watched my live stream with friend battles using Zetton and Mephiles when they dropped, there's a lot of similar elements to when we played there in this deck, but we're not using Godzilla Earth. You could use Godzilla Earth with Zetton, but we're not doing it in this deck. Besides the point. The deck list is on the top right here. It doesn't really matter who your leader is for this deck. I used G89 because I'm going into ranked, but I also try this out with Kiryu, and if you can successfully stall until overtime, the Kiryu is a fine leader. The AoE is nice too, but I just sticking with G89, tried and true strat, right? Okay. Hedorah, Zetton, Burning Godzilla. What do all three of them have in common? When they die, they explode, right? Zetton does a huge explosion, Burning Godzilla can do a huge explosion, and Hedorah drops a pool of acid that does damage over time. All really, really great. We have the Kamacuras. It's just quick body block. This deck is pretty expensive, so the Kamacuras exists pretty much just to protect my leader, right? I'm not using my Kamacuras in a push, I'm using them in a pinch. Psychic Cores for healing. You can heal anywhere on the map, so that's going to be really good for kids, right? We are using kids in this deck, and we are basically going to be teleporting around Zetton and Burning Godzilla and Hedorah all over the map. Zetton cannot move by himself unless Burning Godzilla is pushing him or he gets dimension tied by the enemy. That being said, we can use kids to maneuver him around. Move him up a few spaces, right? So, put kids on the map, okay? Put Burning Godzilla on the map, kids them to the middle. That way, that the Zetton is going to be covering like half the map, right? And you don't have to do it right off the rip. You can let your Zetton charge up a bit before putting him into combat, because the more he charges up, the more damage his explosion is going to do. And then his attack is like this red. I'm not really entirely too sure if the red attack that he does is just a cosmetic thing, or if it is increasing a little bit more damage than he regularly would. But watch my screen right here. He's in the middle of the map. He dies. He killed that Hedorah. That Mothra got pretty low health, right? So having kids in the middle is an insane move. Or not kids in the middle. Zetton in the middle is kind of an insane move, right? Kind of a big brain play. Basically what you're doing, this whole deck revolves around teleporting all your exploders to the middle of the map and then to the leader. You don't need to teleport Burning Godzilla or Hedorah because they'll just move on their own. They're fine. But Zetton needs to be teleported to stick with them. So you can teleport him once into the middle of the map. You can teleport him a second time and he'll be on top of the enemy leader. So that way they're forced to kill him. And when they kill him, he'll explode, right? And he does different percentages per his bars for the explosion on the leader. If your Zetton survives and just dies at a max bar on the leader, that's 40% of the leader's health dealt back to them as damage. And unlike Kiryu, who does 90% health, but it takes 90% of the remaining health, Zetton will deal 40% of their total health, which means Zetton can get kills where Kiryu's Absolute Zero Cannon will not, right? So dropping Zetton on the leader could be huge, could be dangerous. If you look at the gameplay on the right hand side of the screen, that's what happens. Look at this. The Mecha Godzilla pushes my Zetton and crew back. I can teleport them up. I missed the Zetton this go around, but I will get him in the next one, right? And then you'll see. And the closer that the matches get to one another, Zetton's range is huge, right? So he is going to be able to hit your enemies, your leader, when the match is super close in the way it is right now. It's kind of insane. I am having a lot of fun with this deck. I do not think it is meta, just because of how hard it could be to cycle some of the characters out in this deck. Zetton is already really expensive. Burning Godzilla is 5. Hedorah is 4. You don't really have a lot of, at least the version I'm using this, you don't really have a lot of protection for your leader. So I was running into problems with decks that were like rush based, with like Leo and Jaguar Singular Point and Gigan and King Caesar, Fire Rodan, like anything that's getting to me really, really fast. I couldn't cycle out fast enough to save my life, so I would end up dying. But if you're a better player than I am, I'm sure you won't have any problems with that. I'm really enjoying this deck a lot, and I'm just having so much fun. I'm just having so much fun. Hedera has started to become one of the top choices, I think, for people to be picking in ranked, ever since Mecha King Ghidorah had that nerf for what the random King Ghidorah nerf in the middle of his season. And people are like, maybe I don't want to spend, 7 energy on AoE that's just like okay or not really any better than regular King Ghidorah. Hedera has a great AoE, had its acid pool buffed or fixed to do the damage that it should be doing the whole time. So the damage on Hedera is awesome. The range on Hedera is awesome. Really easy to obtain pieces of Hedera. If you've been playing for a long time, you probably have enough to max your Hedera. Really good AoE, really cheap. It's one of my favorite units. It always has been. Zetton. Obviously, this whole deck revolves around basically using Zetton as an aggro piece instead of a defensive piece. And I think that this deck is going to work best with a high-level Zetton. I do not think that at maybe at lower levels it's going to work as well, because you need that health on him. The damage percent that Zetton does dealing back to enemy units and enemy leaders does not change per level, right? It's always going to be fixed. So at level 1 and level 30, Zetton's final explosion is going to be 90% damage to all units, right? That's not going to change. What changes is the health and the damage that Zetton outputs. So I think this season, which is the season that this video goes live, is in September of 2022, which is the season that Zetton and Mephiles have gone live. I think it's probably the best option to use this now, because you can rent Zetton out at level 10. You could rent Zetton out at level 8 or level 7, 6, depending on your rank. So this is going to give you an opportunity to use a high-level piece that you might not have access to for a few months, right? Burning Godzilla is in a very similar boat as Hedera. Just received some really solid buffs. So no longer just an okay option. Burning Godzilla is a very solid option now. And he's been in the game almost for a full year. He will be in the game a full year as of December 2022. And it's given the players a lot of time to get pieces for him, right? So Burning Godzilla might be a character that if you've been playing for a while, you have a lot of pieces for that you just haven't invested in. If you want to use this deck, you could invest in him. Kamacuras, simple investment, everyone's got it, really easy to do, no-brainer. Psychic Chorus, everyone's got it, really easy investment, no-brainer. Kids, come on, man. No one really is investing in kids. Even mine is level 10 in this, but it was working really well in the deck. You don't need to invest in kids for this deck, because as long as you can get the teleport off, it doesn't matter. But if you want a faster teleport, you can. Out of all the pieces in this deck, I think the one that you should be putting your resource in the least is Kids, because Kids isn't a meta unit. It is more used for really like niche decks or fun decks like this one. It's not something that you're really taking into ranked all the time at the moment that this video goes live. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So out of all the things in this deck list that I recommend, upgrading Kids is not one of them. If you want to, go for it. I won't stop you. But if you want to like min-max like the best quality items or characters to be spending on, Kid's not it. And then Dimension Tide. I forgot to mention Dimension Tide earlier, but Dimension Tide has been kind of a goated effect for the last few seasons, pulling ever since it got its energy lowered to 4, and it's just pulling units in. Really solid, and especially for this deck that is all about explosions on death, using Dimension Tide to pull a character into your explosions is huge. It's a no-brainer, right? Pull a unit into the Zetton explosion, do massive damage. Pull them into the Burning Godzilla explosion, do massive damage. Pull them into the Hedera death pool, do damage over time, you know? This deck is revolving all around explosions. Why not bring your enemies as close to those explosions as humanly possible? You know what I'm saying? So those are my thoughts on this deck. I am having a ton of fun with it, but I want to reiterate, if you made it to the end of this video, like I said, I do not believe this is a meta deck. There are if you're looking for just easy wins, easy claps, you know, there's much better ones than this. This is just a fun deck, a more technical deck, and I still have a ways to go with it. I have not quite mastered Kids on Zetton. I think I'm using Kids either too far back behind him or too in front, because I'm not really, you know, Hedera you can see he's on like one square, but Zetton I'm not really sure what square he's on, so that's skill issue for me. I gotta figure that one out. But this deck, while albeit technical and kind of hard to cycle, it is a lot of fun, and if you have the levels, I recommend you give it a shot. I think it could be worth your while. So with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all on the next one. Bye-bye.